for you, Kings fans, wherever you may be. All the frustration and disappointment of the past is gone. The 45-year drought is over. The Los Angeles Kings are indeed the kings of the National Hockey League. They are the 2012 Stanley Cup champions.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another post-game live here on Dime Dropper for the 2024 playoffs. Before we get started, you already know the drill. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. That's where you got to be. If you're watching on Twitter right now, I would really prefer for you to come on YouTube. That's where I make most of my money. That's where I get to see your comments faster. That's where we're trying to get to 10K. So if you're on Twitter, please go to YouTube. I posted the link several times on my page just now. And if you haven't followed your boy, follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Dime Dropper Pod. Early morning live. I wanted to go live last night, but I wasn't feeling great. Also went out, see some friends. So I was like, you know what we're going to do? Just going to go home, sleep, only get a couple hours rest. We'll get right back on the horse before the game starts tomorrow. I got bags under my eyes and everything, but here we are. We're going to talk about the two playing games last night, and then we're going to talk about the two series that have been finalized, and we're going to end it off with the one preview that I just couldn't get guests for, and it's not surprising that it's that one that I could not get guests for, Orlando versus Cleveland. So if you're wondering anything about the other series, I have a video on every single one besides these three that I'm about to talk about now. So if you want to go to my channel, I've done previews with authentic fans of those teams. So please go check those out. They're all out on the channel. Two of them, the LA ones, I just clipped out where we talked about them in the latest episode of Basketball and Figueroa. So check those out. Again, if you are on Twitter, please go to YouTube, come to your boy. It'll be easier for me to see your comments and whatnot. And obviously, super chats are turned on. If you want to drop $1 or a dime, any donation is appreciated for your boy. Let's get right into it. I'm going to try to not spend too much time on some of these playing games because they were just pretty garbage. If I'm not sugarcoating it, I don't think there was too much interest in it. We could have done without it and just had Jimmy Butler and Zion never get hurt, quite frankly. So I don't know, man. You already know I'm not a huge fan of the play-in. We can have that discussion another time. It is what it is. But anyway, Miami Heat, Chicago Bulls, no Jimmy Butler. So I was thinking, maybe Chicago can get it done. But the genius of Eric Spoelstra, the next man up mentality of the Miami Heat was on full display. To start the game, you had Vooch guarding Bam, Caruso on Tyler Hero, Kobe White on Caleb Martin, DeRozan on Nikola Jovic, and then Ayo Dosunmu on Jaime Jaquez, with the Bulls switching 1 through 4. And then the Heat had Bam on DeRozan. That was a very interesting start. Have Bam Adebayo on DeRozan to deter him from shooting that mid-range shot over the top, and it was working. So solid move by Bam. You might be wondering, if DeRozan is being guarded by Bam, who's guarding Vucevic? Well, Nikola Jovic. And when they kept running those pick and pops, Jovic was playing drop coverage, and he was actually doing a pretty decent job of dropping and recovering and taking away that pick and pop jump shot. But here's the thing about Vooch. I'm not really sold with his three ball at all. He's been shooting really poorly this year. He shot 2 for 5 from 3 in the game, 7 for 17 from the field. He was the second leading scorer for the Bulls. But it's interesting with Vooch, right? He's just not a very good defender. And then I don't know how much he still warrants getting the ball as much as he does. But there are still times where I think he should get the ball because the Bulls just don't really have many better options. And people are very anti-post game these days. I heard, though, that his percentage in the post isn't that great, but I wonder what their percentage is doing various other things because they need some offense. They need to go someone. But anyway, the Heat came out and threw the first punch, 19-0 run. And by the way, Tyler Hero was hedging and recovering. He was not switching on to Kobe White or DeMar DeRozan. So the Heat selective on who they allowed to switch. A 19-0 run was put on by the Heat in the first quarter, and it started with Bam locking DeMar up, Caleb Martin doing a good job on Kobe White. The Bulls got a bunch of open threes, and also they were loading up on DeMar every time to try to make him get rid of the ball. Same with Kobe White, and they did get rid of the ball, and the Bulls did get a decent amount of open threes, but they're not a good three-point shooting team. And it was funny because when they kept on missing, there was no alternative. And we're at that point of the year now where we're starting to see that so many of these teams, when their three ball's not falling, they've got no alternative. They just don't even know what to do. It's really ridiculous. It's really ridiculous how these teams have no alternative, and they're supposed to be the most great God-given offensive era we've ever seen. And I just think they lack spontaneity at times. Everything just seems so robotic when it comes to the shot selection of certain teams. Like, this is where you get exposed. This is where you get exposed. If you got no guys that can shoot the in-between shot, then it's a problem. Now, you might be wondering, Chicago does. They have DeMar DeRozan. His spots were getting sat on. I'm talking about when people are running you off the line, closing out, and you're like, okay, let me attack the closeout and go all the way. Sometimes when you attack that closeout and go all the way, and by the time you realize, oh, I'm not going to have a very good look at the basket, I'm going to kick it back out. The defender that you blew by might be getting out to a shooter in time. So again, that mid-range pull-up, that floater, that's there for all these guys, and they're getting run off the three-point line. But so many of them seem uncomfortable taking it. 19-0 run. You know who else is playing well for the Heat? Jaime Jaquez, my boy, UCLA legend. Second straight playing game where the guy's in double figures, showing that he is ready for the moment. And this one was a big performance by Jaime. He had 10 points in the first quarter, attacking closeouts, knocking down open shots, being aggressive, going into the chest of guys. And you know what, Jaime, he is strong, man. He's an absolute bull. Go right into you. And the different approach in the Heat, they were playing through Bam a little bit more with him catching at the high post, running some movement off of him. So that's always good offense to me when you have a big in the high post or in the elbow areas and you can run and cut off of him. And that's something that the Heat have in Bam. They just got to make sure they go to it. Now, when Kevin Love came in the game, he was in drop coverage as well, which I thought was pretty interesting, and it actually worked out okay. He made a couple of nice plays on the ball, got a couple of buckets as well. Nikola Vucevic took 2 threes in the first quarter, and the Bulls just kept on bricking, and some of them were even forced. They didn't even feel wide open. Felt like they were kind of forcing threes, I'm not going to lie. Taking shots that just because they catch the ball behind the three-point line doesn't mean you're necessarily wide open. They're just gunning it. You know what I mean? So, not a huge fan of the Chicago Bulls shot selection. Again, if you are on Twitter, please join me on YouTube. That's where I get to see your comments faster. That's where the good stuff is. Please come to YouTube. If you're so addicted to Twitter, put me on the TV or something or on your different device. I would really prefer if you came on YouTube. Only 8 people on YouTube right now. 6 people on YouTube, 64 on Twitter. It would be nice if we can kind of, even out that score a little bit. But I know everybody loves Twitter so much. Fucking Elon. But I get more money over here on YouTube. Now, somebody that I thought got off to a pretty good start for the Heat, Tyler Hero. Getting a couple of assists, driving and kicking. You knew he was going to be the number one engine without Jimmy Butler, having the ball on pick and roll. So Tyler Hero got off to a solid start, and the Heat in general did with 10 assists in the first quarter. Now, Billy Donovan, by the way, after the first quarter, he said that he just thought they were missing good looks, but I kind of disagree. I thought that they were taking some bad shots, some rush threes. And again, this is not a three-point shooting team. So in a large part, that's kind of playing into the hands of the Miami Heat. Second quarter, they actually weathered the storm a bit. When Bam was guarding bigs, he was in drop coverage. So I just thought that was an interesting, just a footnote I wanted to say. But let's see. Duncan Robinson actually got some burn in this game, made 2 threes, and that caused Vucevic to start showing on the pick and rolls. DeRozan started to get going in the second quarter. He had 12 in the second. He was getting to the basket, starting to cook just a little bit. And then you saw the Heat trapping a bit. There was one time they tried to put Caleb Martin in the action, and the Heat, I think, just trapped to get the ball out of DeRozan's hands. But the Bulls went on a 9-0 run. However, there were so many chances for them to make a big three to just kind of narrow the gap, get them within single digits, maybe force the Heat to call a timeout. They kept on missing what would be that big three, that momentum changer, whether it was Io or Torrey Craig. And then it was one of them, I think it was Torrey Craig that missed, or I think it was Io. And it resulted in Tyler Hero making a fast break three to make it 45-31, right when the Bulls were about to get it to single digits. So you got to take advantage of your opportunities when you're on the road in the playoffs in a single elimination game. Io, I thought he was playing like a young player, just throwing up bad shots, not looking up for his teammates, not watching his teammates fill the lane behind him. But thankfully for them, the Heat had 7 turnovers in the second quarter, so they were able to kind of outscore them in that one. The first quarter was 34-17 in favor of Miami. The second quarter was 20-13 in favor of the Bulls. 13 points in the second quarter. And so that just tells you the level of offense that was being played by both teams, really. So, yeah. It's second half time. Again, come to YouTube, my Twitter people. Come to YouTube. The Bulls actually cut it down to 7 to begin the third quarter. But right after that, the Heat answered with a 7-0 run that was led by Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero hitting the jump shot. There was a little beautiful half spin he had on the left baseline, knocking down a 3-ball with Vucevic in drop coverage. He had 12 points in the third quarter. Caleb Martin had 2 threes. And when the Bulls, for a second, they went small to try to switch everything, Kevin Love came in and was absolutely punishing them when they were going small, whether it be on the boards, trying to get the ball on the post. The Heat went on a 12-0 run, punishing that small ball. And then Andre Drummond came in, and Billy Donovan was like, fuck this. It's not working. And in the fourth quarter, you saw a little bit more of Haywood Highsmith and DeLon Wright. Their defense was really good again, just like it was the other night. Haywood Highsmith, man, he just does a little bit of everything. Cuts. He's athletic. He plays D. I thought Highsmith, Caleb Martin, Bam Adebayo, DeLon Wright, these guys did such a good job on Kobe White and DeMar DeRozan. And you can just see why the Heat are so special. This is what they do. You know what I mean? They find a way to get it done. Eric Spoelstra is always going to give you the best game plan to win. They played as a team, and they got the job done in commanding fashion, 112-91, which knocked out the Bulls for the second straight year in Miami. If you recall, last year in the play-in game, Bulls played the Heat in that final game. Heat got it done to the 8th seed for the second straight year, and they'll be playing the Celtics for the third straight year. They went at 112-91. I'm going to go through the Bulls first. I think it was a positive season for them, but my thing with Chicago is this. Their offense is not good enough. They don't have enough good shooting. The problem is because they traded for Vucevic, they don't, and they re-signed him, which was so weird. They don't have a pick this year. So it would have been nice to have probably what would have been the 10th or 11th pick in the draft. And now you are left without a first-round pick, even though you have some good stuff to build on with Kobe White, with Ayo Dosunmu. You know, you can keep Caruso around for a little bit. But it's time to move on from DeRozan and LaVine, in my opinion. Especially LaVine. We know it was kind of a malcontent situation all year. Injuries. He's constantly hurt. Then DeRozan, I think the thing is, he's just not a good off-ball guy. You know, to me, he's pretty stagnant. He's much better just getting the ball and working around him, but I don't think he warrants, number one option kind of attention. And then off the ball, he's not a great three-point shooter, doesn't really move without the ball much. So he hurts your team in that sense, to me. I don't know why Laker fans wanted him so bad. You think he'd be good next to LeBron? I don't think he'd be that great. I think the Lakers having Reeves and D'Lo is better than having DeRozan next to LeBron, personally. And I think if you're DeRozan, you can't be the number one scorer anymore, dude. Like, how far is it taking you? And you've only gotten older. He's got to be the number two scorer. He never has been. I thought he was coming to Chicago to be that, but Zach LaVine didn't really take the bull by the horns. No pun intended. So let's look at the lines for this game. Kobe White, though, great future. We'll see what the Bulls do. They got some work to do, except their front office is just so bad. But they went with 10 deep. Javon Carter played 4 minutes, 2 points, 1 for 1. Nothing much to say about him. Drummond only played 8 minutes, 2 points, 4 rebounds, 2 turnovers on 1 for 4 shooting in 8 minutes. So not very great from Drummond. Torrey Craig played 11 minutes, had 6 points, 3 boards, and assists, 2 steals, and a block. So filling up the stat sheet a little bit there. 2 for 5 from the field, and all of his shots were threes. And then Dalen Terry, 2 points on 1 for 4 shooting, 0 for 1 from 3 in 13 minutes. Pretty quiet. And then Javonte Green was actually good. 12 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals on 5 for 6 shooting, 2 for 2 from the foul line. The starters, they all played 33-plus minutes. Alex Caruso did not have a great shooting game. And you know this could be a thing with Caruso, as we remember from his Laker days. Not the most convincing three-point shooter. 6 points, 3 boards, 4 assists on 2 for 8 shooting, 2 for 6 from 3. Then Vucevic, 16 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Personally, I think guys were a little harsh on him. I think he is what he is at this stage of his career. He was the second leading scorer on the team, the leading rebounder, and the leading assist guy in this game. 7 for 17 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3. No free throw attempts, though, in 35 minutes of play. And then Ayo Dosunmu, he had a rough one. 10 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks on 3 for 15 shooting, 2 for 11 from 3. My goodness. 2 for 11 from 3. I know he's shooting 40% from 3 this year, but Jesus. Had to have had something else. Had to have a plan B of some sort. And then you have Kobe White and DeMar DeRozan. Kobe White, who had such an electric game the other night against Atlanta, had just 13 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists. They were loading up on him. They had better defenders on him, but he just wasn't able to get in the paint as frequently and create the same advantages. I think that he had a bad game. He had a bad game. 5 for 16 from the field, 2 for 8 from 3, just 13 points in 36 minutes. By the way, the Heat outscored the Bulls 35-23 in the third, and the fourth quarter was pretty trivial. There was just not much to say. So, again, just like the Bulls game against the Hawks, fourth quarter was kind of irrelevant. DeRozan was the leading scorer for the Bulls with 22 points on 50% shooting and 50 from 3, 8 for 16 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3. So he actually ended up having a decent stat line after all. But, again, just doesn't really move the needle for me. And then we go to the Heat. They played 9 deep. Kevin Love at 12 minutes, 16 points and 7 rebounds off the bench for K Love. My goodness. 2 for 6 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3. And how about this? 10 for 10 from the line. And a lot of it came in that stretch where the Bulls went small for just a second and K Love was getting really aggressive. So really amazing impact by Kevin Love, a plus 19 off the Heat's bench. And I think the Heat bench was definitely a reason why they won as well. Then Duncan Robinson, he got 12 minutes. Actually got minutes, though. 8 points, 3 rebounds on 50% shooting and 50 from 3. 3 for 6 on the field, 2 for 4 from 3. And then DeLon Wright, 2 solid impact games for him coming off the bench and adding some athleticism and defense. 5 points for him on 2 for 4 shooting and 1 for 2 from 3 in 23 minutes. And then you have Haywood Highsmith, who came off the bench and again gave that energy, gave that athleticism, played defense, had 9 points, 3 rebounds, 3 steals on 4 for 10 shooting, even had a nice little floater on the roll in the first half, 1 for 4 from 3. So you're seeing there, he can screen a bit too. Just a great, solid utility player developing right here for Miami. And then we get the starters, all of whom played 25 plus minutes. Caleb Martin played 25, 7 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 2 blocks on 3 for 7 shooting and 1 for 2 from 3. And here's the thing about Caleb Martin, right? He clearly hasn't had the same kind of year as last year, but he was the guy that was in conversations to win the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So we'll see what kind of role he has against the Celtics in this rematch. Now, Nikola Jovic, 5 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block on 2 for 6 shooting, 1 for 4 from 3 in 27 minutes. I thought Jovic was very solid. You saw him take the center and drop coverage and do a decent job picking and popping. I thought he was making the right decisions for the most part. Jaime Jaquez, what a game for him. 21 points, 6 rebounds, 6 dimes on 8 for 16 shooting, 1 for 3 from 3, 4 for 4 from the line. Jaime Jaquez, baby, solid game getting to the basket and doing what he needed to do without Jimmy Butler to help them get the job done. And then you had Bam Adebayo, another game where he didn't shoot enough for me, but he was very good overall, a little more aggressive. 13 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, and 2 blocks on 5 for 8 shooting, 1 for 2 from 3. When he made a 3, that's when I knew it was over. 2 for 4 from the foul line. And then Tyler Hero, my player of the game in this one, bounced back from that rough shooting game against the Sixers. 24 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 1 assist away from a triple-double for Hero on 8 for 17 shooting, 4 for 9 from 3, and 4 for 4 from the line. The Heat win it 112-91 in Miami to move on and face the Boston Celtics. So I think we might as well just segue right into the Celtics preview right now. So let's do it, right? The Boston Celtics. All the pressure in the world on this team right now. They've come this far. They've won 64 games, the most in the league. And they've got the best starting lineup on paper in the NBA. They've got to get this done. They've got to get this done. For me, they have the supporting cast. It comes down to the Jays. It comes down to Jason Tatum. It comes down to their late game execution. Because when it comes down to it, the Boston Celtics have had two problems in the past for me. And when I say the past, I mean the last couple of years. One, they get way too three happy. They lead the league in three-point attempts. They're number one in the league in offensive rating and third in defensive rating. They're the only team in the league that is top three in both. But as I said, they get a little too three happy. And their two best players, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, have a tendency to dribble around at the top of the key late in games and take bad shots. I always say Jason Tatum, if you're such a big Kobe fan, go catch the ball in the mid-post. Go work harder off the ball to get the ball in a better position to attack. But instead, you want to catch the ball at the three-point line and dance like you're Paul George. Okay, buddy, you won't win a championship leading your team that way, and there's no excuse for Tatum now. None. And look, now they have a release valve in Kristaps Porzingis. If teams switch and he's got a mismatch, they got to dump it down to him like the Mavericks didn't do. So that brings me to talking about the season for the Celtics. Just talked about their individual stats and their record. But Jason Tatum continuing to improve for me every single year. Obviously, with the additions that they had, Porzingis and Drew Holiday coming in, he didn't average as many points as last year. He scored 27 points a game this year, shot 2 less shots than last year, and shot his least amount of field goal attempts per game since the 2020 season. He shot 47% from the field, which is his best since his rookie year, and he shot 38% from three, which is better than the last 2 years. So Jason Tatum, absolutely, a top 10 MVP candidate. Played 74 games for the second straight year. He's played 74 plus games in all 3 of the last 3 seasons. He is one of the best players in the league. Before the season, I had him ranked 5th, and that was without Kawhi Leonard being ranked. So Jason Tatum, all the pressure is on him. That's my guy. He's, for somebody who is so young, only 25 years old, in their 7th year in the league. Oh my God. It's amazing that Jason Tatum's already in his 7th year. He has so much playoff experience for that age. He's got to get it done, man. And then as far as Jaylen Brown, he's had a drop scoring as well, again, due to the help that he's getting. It's actually his least highest scoring season since 2020. He averaged 23 points a game, but he shot 50%, which was a career high. He shot 35% from three, which is better than last year. So, but his free throw shooting is really suspect, 70%. So that's something to watch for Jaylen Brown. But 23 points a game, an all-star for the 3rd time in 4 years. JB will be someone to watch. Of course, there was that whole he can't go left thing all of last season in the playoffs. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Has he conquered that demon? Has he gotten over that? Then there's Kristaps Porzingis, who's averaging 20 points and 7 rebounds, gives them the ability to have a stretch 5 alongside Horford. So now that opens up even more for the Celtics. And he's been just absolutely lethal. And the amazing part about this team is they've load managed Porzingis all year long with his various injuries. 25 games he's missed, and they were still able to win 64 games, partially because they're so deep, and another reason because the East is pretty weak. They were 43-14 with Porzingis, 21-4 without. So with or without Kristaps Porzingis, they were good. But Porzingis shooting 52% from the field and 37.5% from three this year. The dude has been absolutely awesome, and 86% from the line, and can give you some rim protection with 2 blocks a game. It's going to be interesting to see Kristaps Porzingis in his biggest ever role in the playoffs, because Washington didn't even make the playoffs. Dallas, I mean, geez, that was a disaster, right? And then you have the 2 guys who, in my opinion, give Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown the rest that they need on defense. Even though they're still playing defense, this is what the Clippers ideally should have tried to go for. Guys that can guard the point of attack so that the Jays, their 2 wings, their score-first wings, can focus more on the offensive end. Derek White was getting all-star buzz for a while, for God's sake. All-star buzz. Now, that may have been a little excessive, but Derek White, here's what's not excessive. He is having the 2nd highest scoring season of his career, but he's doing it on a much better team than San Antonio. He's shooting 46% from the field, 40% from three, which is the 2nd highest since his rookie year, where he only shot 0.8 attempts a game, whereas this season he's shooting 7 attempts a game, much higher volume, and he's shooting 90% from the line, while also playing awesome defense. Derek White's averaging 15, 4, and 5. The dude's been absolutely incredible. It's going to be amazing to see him watch the good players in the other teams, the great players. And then speaking of the exact same kind of deal, Drew Holiday, a proven champion, played 69 games this year, averaged his lowest amount of points since his rookie year this year, which is 12 and a half. He shot 48% from the field, though, and get this, a career high in three-point percentage for Drew Holiday, 43%. And I'll be shocked if he's not an all-defensive team. The guy just helps win, doesn't he? So this Celtics team's got all the personnel. They've got all that. The only thing I'll say is their bench isn't as great. It's really just Al Horford, and it goes to Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser and Little Red Cornette. Be interested to see how much Xavier Tillman we see in the series. So that's the one weakness for the C's. They don't have quite about the same depth as some other teams. As far as the Miami Heat, they're going to be big underdogs in this series with Jimmy Butler set to probably miss the entire thing. It's extremely devastating that will be the case. We love Jimmy Butler. I want to see him play. Want to see playoff Jimmy. But doesn't look like this year is going to be one of those years. As far as the Miami Heat, I don't really know what else to say because we just talked about them. It should be a sweep, in my opinion, honestly. I think one thing that the Heat could do is try to go zone, because we remember the Celtics had so much trouble breaking down zones throughout the last couple of seasons. So if I'm Spoelstra, and you know he's going to do it, try to muck it up, go zone and see if these bozos can beat it. And that's what I would think. See if their basketball IQs have come a long way and test these guys. So that's what I got to say about the Celtics. Give me your series prediction in the comment section below. I will not be trimming this video out and making a separate one because we really got no time. So if you have checked it out, go check out my previews on every other series. Clippers is out. I trimmed that part of basketball on Figueroa, and Lakers Nuggets as well. I just released that late last night. So check that out. I won't be clipping this part out. I'm just going to have it timestamped. So Celtics Heat, there you go. I got the Celtics in a sweep. I think the games will be close, but I got the Celtics in a sweep. All right, guys, before we talk about New Orleans and Sacramento, I'm going to go get some water because I just woke up and I haven't had any water. 141 of you guys are on, 141 of you guys are on Twitter. Please come to YouTube. I'm begging you. Get me to 10,000 subscribers. If you're really a fan of what I'm saying, if you're really a fan of your boy, come to YouTube. I'm going to go get water for a minute, right? When I come back, I better see at least 15 people on YouTube. That's where I see your comments. I actually see what you're saying. You can actually kind of interact. And super chats to turn on, runs up $1 a dime. So come to YouTube, okay? I'll be back in 30 seconds. Mods, if you're a mod or you're in this chat right now, please tell people that I'm coming back in a minute. Just getting some water, all right? Don't go anywhere. Come to YouTube, though. You should go somewhere. $50 people on YouTube. There we go. Come on, keep coming in. Keep coming in. The link is right there on Twitter. I gave it to you guys. It's right under the tweet that you're watching. There should be a link. All right. Let's talk. YouTube people. YouTube. Let's go. All right, now it's time to talk about the Pelicans and the Kings. Now, of course, no Zion, which I figured gave the advantage to the Pels. Now, I'm going to be the first to admit to the Kings. I missed the first quarter. The Kings are up 24-22 after one. Turn it on that second quarter. And you know what I saw right away? Classic New Orleans Pelicans bench coming in and making an impact. Alvarado, Trey Murphy, Najee Marshall. These three guys came off the bench, and Larry Nance. You know, Trey Murphy started in place of Zion, but these guys came in with a next man up mentality and got the job done. 6 Pelicans in double figures in this game. They completely outplayed the Kings role players, the Kings other guys. The Kings off the bench got a combined 12 points. Davion Mitchell with 10 and Sasha Vezenkov with 2. Trey Lyles played 13 minutes and got a donut. Alex Len played 4 minutes and got a donut. Keon Ellis, who had such an incredible game against the Warriors, was 0 for 5 from the field and 0 for 4 from 3 in 28 minutes, and it was a minus 20. So he had a donut. So they played 9 guys. 3 of them had a donut. They only had 12 points off the bench. Larry Nance by himself had 13 off the bench. So the Pelicans just have more depth. Now, of course, Sacramento was missing Malik Monk, and that is very relevant. And they were really missing him this time. He and Kevin Huerter. So it wasn't like the Pels were the only ones injured. But man, Larry Nance, you know, it feels like every time I watch him play, the guy makes a positive impact on the game with his, you know, ability to switch out onto the perimeter a little more, because Jonas Valanciunas is strictly like a drop big or, you know, bringing him out to the level of the screen. He's not going to switch. But speaking of JV, man, I thought he was playing like an absolute beast. Absolute beast. Also, one thing I thought was interesting was that Sabonis was switching onto Brandon Ingram. So they were comfortable, especially when Nance was in. So they were comfortable switching Harrison Barnes on a Nance and then Sabonis on a BI just to see if BI's foot speed was there. And I'll tell you what, Brandon Ingram answered the bell after a really rough game against the Lakers. He was hitting his mid-range, and he was just being a little bit more aggressive. And you can see that sleepy-eyed look, but with a smirk on his face. And when BI's got that sleepy-eyed look, which he always has, but with that smirk on his face, you know he's feeling a little good. So Brandon Ingram starting to get things going. Larry Nance doing his thing, but Najee Marshall, I mean, he was everywhere on both ends of the floor. Defense, rebounding, getting out on the break. The Pelicans really turned the game around in that second quarter, and the crowd started going absolutely berserk in Smoothie King. 32-21 in favor of the Pels in that second quarter. Now, the score at halftime was 54-45. The Sacramento Kings were still within striking distance. Again, by the way, if you are watching, I know it's getting annoying for the audio people, but if you are watching on Twitter, please come to YouTube. I see your comments on YouTube quicker. That's where I make my bread. I see 153 people on Twitter, 14 on YouTube. Can we even out that ratio a bit, please? Let's get more people on YouTube. Let's get to 20 on YouTube. 6 of you. Come on. Be the sacrificial lambs. You can get on Twitter sometime else, or get your computer. You put me on the TV. Come on, man. We're trying to get on YouTube. Anyway, let's talk about the second half. Now, the Sacramento Kings, they were staying within striking distance for the most part. As far as the Pelicans, the one thing you really notice is they're so much better defensively. I felt like Sacramento had to work so much harder for their shots. The Pelicans' size and the wings that they have are going to be very bothersome for years to come. Herb Jones is on De'Aaron Fox. You had Trey Murphy on Keegan Murray. Brandon Ingram on Harrison Barnes. Valanciunas and Sabonis matched up. Both Lithuanian. And then CJ McCollum on Keon Ellis. And on the other side, you had Harrison Barnes on Brandon Ingram. Domantas Sabonis on Jonas Valanciunas. Keon Ellis on CJ McCollum. And then Keegan Murray on Herb Jones. And then De'Aaron Fox on Trey Murphy. Now, both bigs were in drop. I think the Pels just have better point of attack guys, so they were getting cleaner looks, and Sacramento had to work harder for their shots. Because again, kind of like with the Warriors, you run these motion sets and they'll switch off the ball, and then you have to find an advantage. And as far as Sabonis, his only thing he does to me is just ram into dudes. And I love the physicality he plays with, but he did not prove to me that he had a better mid-range this year. I don't care what he did in the regular season, but when it pushed him to shove, he didn't really have a mid-range. But I will say this, I'm not really blaming him too much. I think that De'Aaron Fox was amazing. He was keeping the Kings alive with his jump shooting, and Sabonis was fine. But the other guys just didn't bring enough. Keegan Murray had such an amazing game. They tried to run him off the line a bit, and it worked. It worked. It didn't work the other night, but the Warriors still allowed him to shoot too much. It didn't work this one, this time. And the Pels, they're starting to pull away. They broke even in the third quarter, 29-29. the 2 straight threes that kind of turned the game around for me for New Orleans when Sacramento was starting to get close there was one interception that Herb Jones had on the left wing that he brought it up and threw it to McCollum in the corner for 3, and then he ended up getting a 3 on that where I knew probably going to have them. And in the fourth, they went on a 10-0 run led by Jonas Valanciunas, Jose Alvarado, and Brandon Ingram. And the Kings just kept missing their threes. They were working hard for their shots, and they kept missing their threes. I loved how aggressive Valanciunas was. And he even had some good moments defensively, protecting the rim, hitting jump hooks, and then Alvarado. I mean, what can I say about the guy? He just doesn't let you off the hook on both ends of the floor. He'll be cutting offensively. He'll be working hard defensively, getting in your airspace. I mean, the guy is a complete momentum shifter. And the New Orleans Pelicans do not become the first team in the play-in era to not make the playoffs as a 7th seed. Every 7th seed now in the play-in era has made the playoffs. The Sacramento Kings are going home without making the playoffs this year, unlike last. So we're going to talk about that in just a sec. First, let's read the lines. The New Orleans Pelicans winning it 105-98 at Smoothie King Center. The Kings, as I said, went 9 deep, and their bench gave them absolutely nothing. A combined 12 points. Davion Mitchell had 10 points on 4 for 9 shooting and 2 for 6 from 3. As for their starters, I mentioned Keon Ellis's donut in 28 minutes. Then you had Harrison Barnes, who actually had a decent game in both playing games, but I do think they got to move off of Barnes, either make him a bench player or trade him. I mean, let's look at his contract because he's just a little slow. He's giving him enough. He's not a very good defender. He's a bigger body, but he's not a very good defender. So at this point, that's what the Kings need. They need good defenders around Sabonis. Harrison Barnes has $18 million guaranteed next year and then 19 the next. I think they can move that. I mean, that's not a great contract, but it's not that bad in today's market. So I don't know. I don't think that's totally bad. You should look to trade him or bring him off the bench. I don't know if I want an $18 million player coming off the bench. Although we have him with Norm, but I take Norm over Harrison Barnes all day. Keegan Murray, he had a rough one, but a great season, a big step up. And I think he's one of the guys they got to keep for the future. 11 points, 7 boards, 3 assists, a steal and a block on 4 for 12 shooting, 2 for 7 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the foul line. And then you had the stars. Sabonis, 23 points, 14 boards, 7 assists, 3 steals, and a block. He did turn the ball over 4 times, though. It was 9 for 14 from the field, 0 for 1 from 3, and 5 for 5 from the line in 42 minutes. Look, that's a really solid stat line. I thought Sabonis was pretty good, but I think until he gets a jump shot, or if he ever does, if he doesn't get a jump shot, I don't know. This is probably the best he's going to be. This is his ceiling. He's a very good player in the league, probably like top 30, top 25. And he's been fantastic for multiple years in a row. I would even say I think he's been fantastic for about 6 consecutive seasons, dating back to the Indiana season when he got them to the playoffs against, I think, you can argue 7 straight years. I mean, he helped him get to the playoffs against LeBron, helped him get to the playoffs against the Celtics the following year, the Heat the next year. And yeah, finally he's found a new home. And he's been great, but I don't know. This whole 1A, 1B with Sabonis and Fox, I think if those are your best players, then your ceiling is going to be at most second round. If the bracket shakes out well and you get some better supporting pieces, I think that's a second round team. At most. De'Aaron Fox, 35 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, 3 steals. He did turn the ball over 5 times as well. So between 2 stars, they had a combined 9 turnovers. They turned the ball over 15 times, but the Pelicans turned the ball over 16 times. Fox, I thought was really good, but he did shoot 12 for 29 from the field and 4 for 16 from 3. I mean, what the fuck, dude? 16 threes? 16 threes when you're that good off the bounce? And also, one thing that was very disturbing to me about Fox, 7 for 11 from the foul line. What the hell's up with that? So I think Fox was good, but maybe needed to be even a little bit better. At the end of the day, the Sacramento Kings, they had some injuries. They put themselves in a tough spot being the 9th seed. My biggest takeaway from the Kings having a worse season and a slightly disappointing season this year is this. They didn't really make any roster improvements in the summer. They kind of relied on the youth of their team to just kind of bring it back with Keegan, Keon Ellis, with Fox, with Sabonis. And they paid the price. They also sat on their hands at the trade deadline and did nothing, even though they were showing that they were probably going to be in a plain situation. So I think that was a mistake by Monty McNair. And going forward, I think they're going to have to make some moves. I think you keep Fox, then you keep Sabonis, Murray, Keon Ellis, and then you retool with the other guys. Probably get rid of Davion Mitchell, Harrison Barnes. Keon Ellis is basically going to do what Davion Mitchell does for you at this point. So get some bona fide defenders and role players around Sabonis. Get a better backup big, for Christ's sake. Alex Len, Trey Lyles. You can get better guys than this. And I think we'll see what happens. I mean, I was disappointed. I thought the Kings were going to be the second seed only because I was more trustworthy in their health than other teams. And the West just got better. They only were 2 games worse than last season, which with all the injuries they had, which shows you how much better the West is. And Kevin Huerter, I think they should go to having him as a bench player. I know there's a lot of chemistry with his movement and motion in the starting lineup, but I think him coming off the bench would be great. So, but they have Malik Monk, so it's kind of redundant. I don't know. I'd say maybe try to trade him, try to retool and get some real defenders around these guys. That's what I would do. But anyway, as far as New Orleans, let's read their stat lines. So yeah, it's a slightly disappointing season for the Kings. I got it wrong for sure on that. Let's go with Alvarado first. 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a block. 0 turnovers. He was a plus 11 on 4 for 8 shooting, 1 for 1 from 3, and 1 for 1 from the line. Grand Theft Alvarado. Absolutely fantastic performance in both of these playing games. Then you have Najee Marshall, who didn't play against the Lakers like that. 11.6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a block, and also 0 turnovers on 5 for 11 shooting, 1 for 4 from 3 in 24 minutes. Najee Marshall had a fantastic game off the bench. And then to triple the bench performances being great, Larry Nance, 13 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals on 6 for 7 shooting, 1 for 2 from the foul line in 21 minutes. Then you have the starters who all played 26 plus minutes. Herb Jones, 5 points, 4 assists. It was actually a very quiet game for Herb Jones. 2 for 3 from the field and 1 for 2 from 3 and 0 for 2 from the line in 26 minutes. He was a minus 14, which was the worst of any Pelican. I don't really think that means he played bad, though. But just a quieter game for Herb. And then you had Jonas Valanciunas, who was an absolute monster. 27 minutes played, 19 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 0 turnovers on 8 for 16 shooting and 3 for 3 from the foul line. So JV was an absolute beast. And that's what they're going to need to do. They're going to need to feed him when he's got a mismatch. He's not a good defender. You've got to keep him involved offensively. So good for Valanciunas for that double-double. And then Trey Murphy played more minutes than anyone for the Pels. 43 big ones. And had an all-around game if I've ever seen one. 16 points, 8 rebounds, which was second in the game for the Pels. 6 assists, which was tied for the most in the game for the Pels. 1 steal. He turned the ball over 4 times, though. And Herb Jones turned the ball over 3 times. He was 6 for 12 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and 2 for 2 from the line. Trey Murphy, just an up-and-coming, fantastic role player in the making. Can knock down the 3 ball, has the athleticism, can defend, can attack closeouts. Really a solid player. And then you have the 2 star caliber guys. CJ McCollum, who had a very quiet game. So again, I'll talk about that in a second, but you're going to need a lot more from CJ scoring-wise without Zion. And ever since 2021, we've seen some very shaky CJ McCollum in the playoffs. And these playing games have really been no different. He was 3 for 8 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, 4 turnovers. So got to take better care of the ball. If you look at this Pelicans roster, they really have no true point guard. Jose Alvarado is kind of the closest they can get. So then Brandon Ingram, in my opinion, player of the game. You can make an argument for Valanciunas, but I'm going to go BI because he's the guy that had to step up without Zion, and he did. 24 points, 6 boards, 6 assists, 1 block. In the same vein as the others, he had 4 turnovers and has to take better care of the ball. But 10 for 20 from the field, 20 shot attempts, 50% from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, 3 for 3 from the line in 37 minutes. That's what I love to see from BI. Brandon Kingram. Yes, sir. Getting it done, and he's going to need to get it done without Zion. So I want to say congrats to the Pelicans making it to the playoffs for the second time in 3 years. But sadly for them, it's looking like it's going to be the exact same situation as 2 years ago against Phoenix when they won the play-in game and are going to be without Zion. Now, as of 7 minutes ago, the injury report says that Zion Williamson will be out it's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks, which probably means he's out for the entire series, which is so unfortunate because we finally got to see freaking Zion play a play-in game, play a play-in game in front of the New Orleans crowd. It's kind of similar to the whole Kawhi thing, not playing in front of a sold-out Clipper crowd. So Zion Williamson, it's unfortunate. I wish him the absolute best, but they're going to have to go on and win this series without Zion. So let's just talk about the Thunder real quick, right? What an interesting series we have here. And there's a lot of storylines to this. 1 versus 8. I think when you look at New Orleans and OKC, you first think these are 2 up-and-coming teams, young teams. So it'll be really cool to see that. And I think one of these 2 teams is going to make the second round in what's been a gauntlet of a Western Conference. Before the season, we're talking about the Clippers, we're talking about the Lakers, talking about Denver, Phoenix, Dallas even. Not really Dallas as much. But we got the Pelicans and the Thunder. One of them is going to make the second round, which is amazing. So give them a lot of credit that they put themselves in this position. It does not feel like a 1 versus 8 at all. And I think a lot of that's because of lack of respect the Thunder are getting because they are a young team and they are a team that's the number 1 seed in an era that doesn't value the regular season standings as much as it used to. So in the regular season, that's devalued. So they are the number 1 seed, but everyone's treating Denver like the number 1 seed. So if Zion were playing, I think this would be a really interesting series. But because he's not, I'm going to go with the Oklahoma City Thunder in 5 or 6 games. I'm going to go with 6 games just because I like the Pelicans. And I do think both of these teams are pretty good defensively. The Oklahoma City Thunder are in a similar boat as the Boston Celtics, where they're actually, you know what? Yeah, they're the only team in the NBA besides the Celtics that were top 5 in both offensive and defensive rating. 3rd in offensive rating, 4th in defensive rating. To me, they should have the MVP and the Coach of the Year in Mark Dagnall and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, look, the Oklahoma City fucking Thunder are number 1 in the West this year. They were 10th seed last year, and their only major addition was Chet Holmgren. Like, you got to be the number 1 seed to me. I know what Jokic has done. I'm sorry, you got to be the MVP to me. I know what Jokic has done. I know what Luka's done. I think SGA should win. He's averaging 30-plus points a game for a second straight year. He's gotten the most out of all his teammates. He's played great defense, and they're the number 1 seed. There's not much else you can ask for. If you had told me before the season, OKC will finish above Denver, you got to give SGA MVP. You just got to me. So I'm not mad either way, but I'm pulling for SGA to win MVP. The Thunder finally, for the first time since the trade in 5 years, finished with a better record than the Clippers. So now it's starting to look like after the first 4 years went our way, the tide has turned. But let's see if the Pelicans or the Thunder even win a playoff series. They haven't won a playoff series since they lost Kevin Durant in 2016. 4 actually consecutive first-round exits. So let's see what they got. This is going to be so cool to me to see SGA finally, now in year 6, get to be schemed as a number 1 option for the duration of a playoff series. And it'll be really cool to see the OKC crowd embrace this second era of Oklahoma City Thunder basketball, or third era if we're being real, because the first era was KD, Westbrook. I'm going to include the KD, Westbrook, and Harden all in one KD, Westbrook era. And then you had the post-KD era, and now you had the rebuild era that has led to the SGA era, SGA, Chet, and J-Dub. So it's going to be really interesting. Here's what I will say. The New Orleans Pelicans have a lot of bodies to throw at SGA. Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Alvarado. So I think they're going to actually have some bodies to throw at J-Dub and SGA. As far as the Thunder, they also have some bodies to throw at Ingram, Lou Dort, J-Dub, SGA. But here's my thing with the Pels. If Brandon Ingram can be the best version of himself, he can still get the shot up over the top of a lot of those guys. He's much taller than Lou Dort. I wouldn't say much taller. He's got a couple inches over Lou Dort. He's got a couple inches over Jalen Williams. So Brandon Ingram, he's going to have to be amazing. He's going to have to average 25-plus points a game. And CJ McCollum's going to have to average at least 20. I like the Pelicans' depth better than the Thunder. But I just think the Thunder are a little more sound. I think Jonas Valanciunas might get absolutely exposed in the pick and roll. Might be a Larry Nance series to switch and make Chet Holmgren play one-on-one, because I think that'll be the counter. If you have Jonas in drop coverage and Chet just pick and pop threes, you're going to get absolutely fucked. So I'm really excited for this series. My official prediction is going to be Thunder in 6. I know that's a little generous to New Orleans, but I like New Orleans. I'm going to go Thunder in 6. Now for the final series to talk about today, before the game starts in 10 minutes, and it's going to be that series itself, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Orlando Magic. Now, before we get into that, I want to ask all you 218 people on Twitter, please come to YouTube for 5 minutes. If it's anything, 5 minutes, please come to YouTube. There are links on my page, on my Twitter page right now to go to YouTube. Please, that's where I make my money. That's where I want to see that 10,000 subscribers. So 218 of you on Twitter, or 220, please, some of you come to YouTube. Let's get 20 on YouTube for this live ends. Cleveland versus Orlando. Let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers first. I had them finishing 4th in the East this year, and look what happened. They finished 4th in the East. 18th in offensive rating this season. They were 9th last year. And for the second straight year, they're a top 6 defense in the league. Last year, they were number 1 in defensive rating. This year, they're number 6. Here's the thing about the Cavaliers. They had a very somewhat slow start to the season, even though I thought they made really solid additions in the offseason with Max Strus, with George Niang. But they had a lot of injuries throughout the year. Darius Garland missed 25 games. Donovan Mitchell missed 27 games. Evan Mobley missed 32 games. So they had a lot of injuries. But what was very surprising to me was that run they went on when Darius Garland and Evan Mobley were out, and Jarrett Allen just had maybe the best season of his entire career. I mean, yeah, I think it was. At career high in points, 16.5 a game. He averaged 10.5 rebounds. He averaged a career high. That wasn't a career high, by the way, but a career high in assists with 3. Averaged a block a game on 63% shooting from the field. So here's what I got to say about Jarrett Allen. He had a terrible playoff series against Mitchell Robinson and the Knicks last year. He's got to show some toughness. He's got to rebound. Wendell Carter does not have playoff experience outside. Yeah, he doesn't have any playoff experience. So I want to see Jarrett Allen outplay Wendell Carter in this postseason series. As for Evan Mobley, 16 points, 9 rebounds. I'm going to say this about Evan. I love him. Obviously went to USC, took us to the Elite 8, which I'd never seen in my time. But I don't think he really improved. I know he had injuries, but, last year he was 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He had less points per game this year. He did have a career high in rebounds, though, 9.4 a game, and a career high in assists with 3.2, and a career high in field goal percentage, 58, and a career high in three-point percentage, 37. So maybe I'm being harsh. He was just injured. So Evan, let's see how he plays in the playoffs. He also had a bad playoff series last year. Went from averaging 16 points in the regular season to 10 in the playoffs. So he was asked. The whole Cavs team was asked. They got a lot of making up to do. And then Darius Garland, he had a rougher season this year because of the injury. The last 2 seasons he played 68 and 69 games. And this season he played 18. This season he averaged 18 points a game, which is lowest since his sophomore year. So since Donovan Mitchell had arrived, he shot 45% from the field, which was lower than the last 2 years. 37 from 3, which is also lower than the last 2 years. So a little bit of a decline season for Garland. He hasn't made the All-Star team. He's only made 1 All-Star team, but I still consider him an All-Star caliber player. And I think that he could have a really good series. Last year, his playoff points per game, his points per game also dropped in the playoffs, and his efficiency wasn't great either. So let's see if Darius Garland can have somewhat of a redemption series as well. Now, again, this Cavs team, their defense is very good. They got Jarrett Allen, they got Evan Mobley, and I think Max Strus and George Niang absolutely helped them. One of their biggest issues last year was that they just didn't have enough shooters. Just did not have enough shooters. So let's see what the additions of Strus, Niang can do this postseason. Even Sam Merrill, guys like that. How many time is Sam Merrill going to even get? So this Cavs team, I think, is better. I think they're more playoff ready. But Donovan Mitchell had a really serious injury towards the end of the season, and they really slumped. At one point, I want to look at their schedule because at one point, the Cavaliers were the 2nd seed. They were the hottest team in the NBA. They had 9 straight wins. They were 35-16 at one point. 35-16. 38-19. I mean, these guys were rolling in February, just completely rolling. And then they ended up finishing the season with, a rough month of March without Donovan Mitchell. I want to see what the record with Donovan Mitchell is. So let's see what it is. Donovan Mitchell played in 55 games this season. And in those 55 games, they were 36-19. So without Donovan Mitchell, they were 12-15. So there you go. That tells you everything you need to know. Donovan is the key. Now, what does he look like with the season winding down after coming back from injury? They've been very cautious with Donovan before the playoffs. The last game of the regular season, he didn't even play. So again, as I said, very cautious. They know what's at stake. There's been a lot of talk about Donovan Mitchell, whether he wants to be a Cav long-term or not. But the last game he played, he had 33 points and played 37 minutes. So it looks like he should be okay. That game was against the Indiana Pacers, though. They don't play much defense, but a lot of pressure to be on the Cavs to get a series win here because they're playing against a very inexperienced team, which brings us to the Orlando Magic. This is one of the best stories in the NBA this year. They have taken a leap like I didn't even expect. I thought they were going to be the 9th seed this season, but they're the 5th seed. I mean, they have completely shattered expectations. Paolo Banchero is an all-star in year 2. Franz Wagner is a stud. Jalen Suggs should be an all-defensive guy. Jonathan Isaac's back healthy and defending at a high level again. Wendell Carter continues to get better. It looks like the Orlando Magic, and it's funny, they completely won that Vucevic trade. They got Wendell Carter and they got some picks, and now they're higher seed than the Bulls. Orlando is looking like they're on the up and up, and it all starts with having a franchise player like Paolo Banchero. I mean, I said when I saw him at Duke, this guy's a man-child. They got him. Now they got Franz Wagner. They've got a really solid thing going. But here's the thing about the Magic. And by the way, as far as Paolo Banchero is concerned, I mean, the guy's an absolute stud. The one thing I'll say about this team, though, and I've noticed it by watching them all year, is that their offense is ass. They don't have enough shooting, and Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner are a big part of that. So I think they just don't have enough offense to win a playoff series this year. They're 22nd in the league in offensive rating. 2nd in defensive rating, though, the best defensive team in the NBA behind Minnesota. So they're the best defensive team in the conference. And it's no secret. I mean, they have the amazing size in the front court with Paolo, Franz, and Wendell Carter. And then they have Jalen Suggs, who's an absolute monster defensively. And then Jonathan Isaac coming off the bench, and Gary Harris, who's never been a slouch on that end. Now, as far as Banchero, 23 points a game this season, 7 rebounds and 5 assists, improved in basically every single statistical category, 46% from the field this year instead of 43 last year, and from 30% from 3 to 34% from 3. So I just see that continuing to improve for Paolo. Played in 80 games and was an all-star. I think it's going to be awesome to see him on the big stage. The one thing I'll say about Paolo is they're going to go underneath the screens on him. So they're going to force him to shoot. It'll be interesting to see how he combats that. But here's what I will say. Who do the Cavs really have for him? Evan Mobley? Can Evan Mobley, strength-wise, stay in front of Banchero and not get knocked off balance? I don't know. Max Strus, George Niang? I think George Niang, body type-wise, would be the best choice. Isaac Okoro, by the way, someone I didn't mention. I think he's had a huge improvement season for the Cavs. He's shown some attacking closeout chops, and he was a complete offensive liability in the playoffs last year. He was part of the reason that they did so well without Garland, because you added some extra defensive versatility and prowess to that lineup. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of impact Isaac Okoro has off the bench. But I don't know how many guys they have for Paolo. And then Franz, kind of the same. He averaged 20 points this year, 5 rebounds and 4 assists. Just continues to get better and better. Career high in points, career high in rebounds, career high in assists, career high in nothing else, I don't think. He didn't shoot too well, though, from 3. He shot 48% from the field, and he's been pretty consistently around that mark in his first 3 years, but 28% from 3, which does hurt considering he takes 5 a game. I mean, come on, Franz. So we'll see about that. Jalen Suggs obviously had an amazing year, breakout year, 13 points a game for him, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and then playing at an all-defensive level and shooting 40% from 3. So he and Wendell Carter are their best percentage three-point shooters outside of Joe Ingles and Anthony Black, who we'll see how much playing time he gets. He averages 17 minutes a game, Anthony Black, the rookie. So that'll be interesting. I think the one thing about the Magic is that they actually have more bodies to throw at Donovan Mitchell than I think that the Cavs have to throw at Franz, and Paolo. So I think they just have more bodies to throw at Donovan Mitchell and Garland than these guys. I love the size in the front court of Orlando, but I think they're just a little too inexperienced to win the series this time around. So I think I'm going to go with the Cavs in 7, but it'll be very interesting to see how this goes. I think Donovan Mitchell, like for how well he started his postseason career, he did not play well in 2019. He did not play well to close some of those games when he blew a 3-1 lead to Denver, even in the bubble, even though he was nuclear. He did not play well against the Clippers in the last 4 games. I don't care if he got injured. I've seen him do the exact same shit healthy. He played like shit against Dallas in 2022, and he was not good enough last year. Donovan Mitchell, as a number 1 option, it looks like you have hit a rut. Win this series against a very young Orlando team. No excuses. But I'm very excited for this. The Wagner brothers, the Orlando Magic, and of course, this is going to be the NBA TV series. They're going to throw it on NBA TV and barely play the games on national television. But you know what about me? We watch every game in the playoffs. Every game. So we'll have everything. So that will conclude my episode for this one. A 1-hour episode right in time for the playoffs. Enjoy. We got 4 games today, but I will not be able to watch any of them live outside of the first half of this Orlando game because I have my games to coach. I coach on Saturdays. So here's what's going to happen, right? I will be going live tonight after I watch all the games. This will probably be around 11 o'clock p.m. at night or 10 p.m. at night. Maybe even midnight, and I'll be out in the morning for you. But no matter what, by the time you wake up on Sunday, if you live in America, because if you live out in another country, I can't promise you. But if you live in America, when you wake up on Sunday, I will have a post-game recap of all 4 games, all 4 of them, in depth. Enjoy. I'll be off Twitter for the rest of the day. Good luck to all your teams. Let me know what you think, and you better join me tonight for the live. You better join me. Peace out. It's playoff time, baby, the best time of the year, and we'll be live every night. All right, guys. I'll read the comments real quick. There's not that many of them. KB Magic, what's up, my boy? Good morning time. Hi, among all media and YouTube, I saw only one pick the Clips against the Mavs. It is sad. We need to prove them. What do you think? I think we need Kawhi to play. It's crazy how young the Heat are now. They swap places with the Celtics. Celtics old, Heat are kids. The Knicks will come out the East. Okay. Is Kawhi good for game 1? I don't think so. JFK, Boston's dog shit dime. Change that nasty background. Pull it up from Twitter. Thank you, JR. Salute. What's up, Amir? Team to beat Miami Heat. Maximum in the live was like 19 people. We'll take it. All right, guys. Peace out. And have a good one.